In Albion Online, the resources are really simple to understand, and I like that. Like, if I go hunt animals, I'm gonna get hide. And if I chop trees, I'm gonna get some kind of wood. And it kind of makes sense that you're gonna build a house out of stone and wood. And you're gonna make weapons out of metal. Like, this is not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward. And then you have tier levels, so it becomes pretty obvious that tier 2 stuff would make lower level gear and weapons, and higher level materials would make more valuable things. Then you have a few other things that are used for upgrading weapons, and that's also pretty simple. Like, you have 3 levels of enchantment, so if you have a level 7 weapon, then you could enchant it to level 1, which would be equivalent to 8 flat, or 3 levels up enchantment would be equivalent to adding 3 item levels to the weapon. Like, it's all kind of, it's basically just a numbers game. It's pretty simple. It's not hard to understand what you're doing. Now, how do you get how do you get these things? Maybe that's the question. Then you have fame. Fame is pretty straightforward, that you get a buff for for your character based on what skill you've been working on leveling up. So you can work on that by getting fame, and you do that by doing dungeons pretty much. So, like, it's just pretty simple. There's not a lot to learn in terms of how the game works. And then by contrast, if you go to a game like, say, Guild Wars 2, which I think is a good game, then you get a bunch of different materials, and it suddenly doesn't feel gratifying to get materials because you don't even know what they do. Like, they have weird names and titles, and maybe they have cool icons, but Lord knows what they're even for. And then you just have your inventory full of junk, and after an hour or two of playing, you wind up trying to figure out how to just get rid of the stuff in your inventory so it's not taking up bag space. In Albion Online, everything has value. You know what it is, and everything can be sold. You can sell everything, and you know what it all is really supposed to do. Um, you might have a bunch of trash in your inventory that you're going to sell off real quick because you don't want it, but it's not because you don't know what it does. Um, but with some of the other MMOs, it's hard to really value the things in your inventory. And maybe if you play the game avidly, and you are well versed in it, you understand this. But I know for me, there's just so many times where it feels like the stuff that I wind up having in my inventory is just a waste of space and time. In Albion Online, I never feel that way, because even if it's just junk armor, I know I can sell it, I know I could wear it. So it doesn't feel like it's worthless. Maybe it's not worth a lot, but it's worth something. And so that really contributes to the sense of money having value, whereas in a game like Guild Wars 2, I don't really ever have a sense of personal connection to the currency, because I don't really even feel like I need any currency. I don't, I mean, you don't drop gear or any of the stuff on you if you die. It's pretty easy to get stuff. So, like, why do you really even care? you don't really need gold to play. Once you get your character to look the way you want it to look, if you don't earn any money in the game, that's pretty much fine, because most of the cool looking stuff is gem store anyway. But then, I mean, like Albion Online, very little stuff is premium shop. I mean, there are some skins and stuff for cosmetics and premium shop, but it's not really very much. So I like that simplicity. It's elegance in simplicity, that less is sometimes more. When you have something super simple that a child can understand versus something that you have to have played a whole lot for quite a while in order for you to really get it. That's the difference between something that's well designed and something that maybe isn't. Um, Another thing that I like about Albion, and this is kind of a thing where I was surprised to realize this. I like the fact that its UI is really simple too. Like, as I'm playing this right now, I can play the game with just one hand on my mouse, just run around doing stuff. I don't even really have to use both hands to play the game. I can just use my mouse. And obviously I do have an MMO mouse, so that's a little different maybe, but it's not something that requires a lot of thought. I wouldn't say it's not a game that requires skill, because if you're going to go out and do anything competitive, there's definitely a level of skill there. Um, but it's not complex in the sense that it requires you to be hands-on all the time, and I think that's kind of nice. Um, but then I guess I'll close with this thought, and it is that despite all the things I like about Albion Online, there's also things Albion Online isn't. It's not a, it's not going to have the aesthetic appeal of some of the more polished, bigger name MMOs out there, and RPGs. So, like, I am not going to say I don't want to play Guild Wars 2 at all, or I don't want to play, Genshin Impact at all. These are good games, but they're not necessarily a daily game. They're not necessarily a game I'm going to log into every day after I get off work. Albion Online is that game for me. So I guess that's where I draw the distinction between a game that's a RPG first and one which is more of a life sim MMO first. And Albion Online doesn't have any story. It doesn't have anything for you to really work on other than the MMO part of the game. And I play solo most of the time. That could change if I ever decide to change that. But it's an MMO for me because I'm still participating in an economy that's 100% player driven. So even if I'm not out there doing a guild activity with other people, I'm still playing the game in a way that is deliberately collaborative with others, because everything that I produce and sell and do to make money in the game is something that another player is directly benefiting from and impacted by. So that ability to passively have the sense of an MMO, where you get that gratification of knowing that what you're doing isn't just in a bubble. Like if I'm playing a city builder and I make money in my city or something, and it's a single player game, I guess that's cool, but it's not the same as creating a currency that can be traded amongst other people, something that is deemed to have some sort of intrinsic value. That's why people get all wrapped up in this NFT stuff, because people love the idea of something virtual, but also something with a perceived intrinsic value. Now, I don't think that's a good thing if you're being duped with your own real money, but in the context of an MMO, that's kind of why people enjoy playing an MMO, because what they do is visible and worth something to other people. Even if they're not directly playing with other people, it's still nice to know that what you're doing is part of a broader world of what other people are doing, and you're involved in their existence, I guess. Makes it feel real in a way that a single player game can't be. Yeah, but then again, there's also something to be said for the fact that some of the MMOs are, maybe better than Albion Online in terms of their story or other aspects of the game experience. So it's good not to fixate on just one thing. You should play whatever it is you enjoy, and that doesn't mean that you need to play just one particular game and then give up all the other ones. Sometimes maybe you play one kind of most of the time, and then you have a few other ones that you play once in a while when you feel like it. I think that's probably healthy. Not to feel like you have to figure out what is the one best MMO out there, or I guess that's true for any genre, but what's the best one is going to drive you crazy, because there really isn't a best one. Like they're all different. They all have different things to offer and stuff. So don't fixate. But if you're gonna pick one that you play all the time, I think something that's simple and lightweight and easy to understand the mechanics of trumps something that's more complex and requires more involvement, and it's harder to explain. You know, if you can explain it to a child, it's probably better than something that you have to make a bunch of charts and stuff to explain, because nobody understands it unless you send them to school or something. Maybe I'll stop in and I'll faction flag for a little while. Well, anyway, thank you very much for watching. Till next time. Goodbye.